Marcus Williams knelt in the dirt, his expensive suit soaking up mud like it didn't cost $3,000. His hands shook as he traced the letters carved into cold marble. Destiny Williams. Beloved daughter, 2016-2024. 8 years old. That's all she got. 8 years of princess dresses and bedtime stories. 8 years of calling him daddy in that sweet voice that made his heart melt every single time. Marcus pressed his forehead against the stone and sobbed. Not the quiet, dignified crying you see at funerals. This was raw, broken. The kind of crying that comes from a place so deep inside you that it rips your soul apart on the way out. Baby girl, he whispered, his voice cracking. I'm so sorry, I should have protected you, I should have been there. The cemetery was empty except for the wind moving through the trees. It was late afternoon, the kind of gray November day that makes everything feel hopeless. Marcus pulled a small pink hairbrush from his jacket pocket, Destiny's hairbrush. He'd found it in his car last week and hadn't been able to let it go since. Remember when you wouldn't let anyone else brush your hair except me, he said to the stone, smiling through tears. You'd run away from your nanny, from Auntie Jasmine, from everybody. But when Daddy came home, you'd bring me this brush and sit right between my knees. His chest heaved with another sob. The guilt was eating him alive from the inside out. He kept replaying that weekend in his mind, over and over, like a horror movie he couldn't turn off. Destiny had gone to spend the weekend at his wife Monique's cabin, the one up in the Catskills, surrounded by woods and mountains. Monique said she wanted to bond with her stepdaughter, do some girl time activities. Marcus had thought it was sweet, his new wife trying so hard to connect with his daughter from his first marriage. But then Monique had to come back to the city Friday night, some emergency at her boutique. She left Destiny with the housekeeper at the cabin. And then the fire happened. By the time the firefighters got there, the cabin was ash. They found Destiny's shoes, her favorite stuffed bear, the silver bracelet Marcus had given her for her 8th birthday. They never found her body. The fire had been too intense, too hot, everything turned to dust. Marcus had identified her belongings and signed the papers. What else could he do? His baby was gone. That was 2 months ago. 63 days of waking up and forgetting for just 1 second that she was dead. 63 days of remembering all over again. 63 mornings of wanting to die himself. I gave up, baby, Marcus whispered to the gravestone. I let the company go. I let Uncle Terrence handle everything. I stopped answering the phone. I couldn't do it anymore. How am I supposed to run a business when I can't even get out of bed? Terrence, his younger brother, just 2 years apart, they'd always been close. Terrence had been his rock these past 2 months, coming by every day, making sure Marcus ate, handling the business meetings Marcus couldn't face. And Monique, sweet Monique with her gentle hands and soft voice, she'd been devastated too, blamed herself constantly. I should have stayed with her, she'd say, crying into Marcus's shoulder. I should have never left her there alone. Marcus wiped his face with his sleeve. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Beautiful. Wrong. How dare the world be beautiful when Destiny was dead? He stood up slowly, his knees protesting. He was only 35, but grief had aged him. He felt 70. He felt like his life was over. I love you, baby girl, he said one last time. Daddy will come back tomorrow, I promise. He turned to leave, his vision blurry with tears. And that's when he saw her. Just for a second, a flash of movement behind a big oak tree about 50 yards away, a figure, too small to be an adult, about the size of an 8-year-old. Marcus's heart stopped. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, looked again. Nothing, just shadows and tree trunks. I'm losing my mind, he muttered. The grief was making him see things that weren't there, making him hallucinate his dead daughter in cemeteries. He walked toward the parking lot, his footsteps heavy on the gravel path. His black Mercedes waited for him, the only car left in the lot. But as he opened the car door, he couldn't shake the feeling. That flash of movement, that shape that looked exactly like. No, impossible. Marcus drove home through the darkening streets of Harlem, his mind a mess of memories and guilt. He barely noticed the traffic or the people on the sidewalks. His whole world had shrunk down to one thought: destiny is gone, and it's my fault. Behind the oak tree, pressed flat against the rough bark, Destiny Williams stood frozen. Her chest moved up and down so fast she thought her heart might explode right out of her body. She just watched her daddy cry. Really cry. The kind of crying that scared her because daddies weren't supposed to cry like that. Her own tears ran down her face, hot and quiet. She wanted to run to him so bad, wanted to jump into his arms and feel safe again, feel like everything would be okay. But she couldn't, she knew she couldn't. Because if they found out she'd escaped, even for a little while, they might hurt Daddy. They might hurt her. They might do something even worse than what they'd already done. Destiny looked down at her hands. They were dirty. Her clothes, once nice, were now worn and stained from 2 months of being kept in that place. She'd lost weight, not dangerously, but enough that her clothes hung loose. She'd learned to be very, very quiet in her prison, learned to sit still for hours, learned to cry without making any sound at all. But today she'd been brave. While they were distracted, arguing about something in the front room, she'd found a way out. She was 8 years old and smart, smarter than they thought. She'd figured out the window latch and squeezed through. She'd run through the woods, her sneakers pounding against the ground. She had to see him, had to see her daddy one more time, even if she couldn't talk to him. And now she had. Now she'd seen how sad he was, how broken. "I'm sorry, Daddy," she whispered to the empty air. "I want to come home. I want to come home so bad." But she couldn't, not yet, because she'd heard things, terrible things, things that made her stomach hurt and her head feel dizzy. 3 nights ago, she'd been pretending to sleep on the cot in the locked room. The door was thick, but there was a crack at the bottom. Sound traveled through that crack if you pressed your ear right against the floor. And that's how she'd heard them. Heard Monique and Uncle Terrence, talking and laughing in the living room. 2 months already, Monique had said. Her voice sounded different than when she talked to Daddy. Harder, mean. Nobody suspects a thing. Everyone believes the fire story. Uncle Terrence had laughed, actually laughed. "And your husband, how's he doing? Still crying like a baby?" "Pathetic," Monique had said, "but it's working perfectly. The tea I've been giving him every night, the special tea with the medicine we got, it's working, slowly but surely. The doctor said his liver numbers are getting worse. They think it's stress, stress." She'd laughed like it was the funniest joke in the world. Destiny had frozen on her cot, her whole body turned to ice. "And once he's dead," Uncle Terrence had asked. "Once he's dead, we split everything. The company, the houses, the investments, all of it. We'll be millionaires, baby, free and clear." They'd kissed then. Destiny had heard the sounds. It made her want to throw up. "What about the kid?" Uncle Terrence had asked. "When this is all over?" There was a pause, a long, scary pause. "We'll figure it out," Monique had finally said. "She can't stay hidden forever. Eventually we'll drop her off somewhere far away, a bus station in another state. She won't remember enough to hurt us. She's just a kid." Destiny had understood then. They'd taken her, faked her death, and now they were slowly killing her daddy too, for money. Now, standing in the cemetery as the sun disappeared, Destiny made herself move. She had to get back before they noticed she was gone. Had to climb back through that window and pretend she'd been there the whole time. But first she had to figure out how to save her daddy's life, because Monique was poisoning him every single day, and he didn't even know it. Destiny looked at the gravestone one more time. Her name was on it, but she wasn't dead. Not yet. And if she could help it, neither would her daddy be. "I'll save you, Daddy," she promised the empty air. "I don't know how, but I will." Then she turned and ran back into the woods, moving quietly through the shadows. Behind her, the gravestone stood like a lie carved in stone, a lie she was going to destroy. If only she knew how. Marcus walked into his house and the silence hit him like a punch to the gut. It was always like this now. Too quiet, too empty. Before he'd come home to Destiny's laughter, to her running to meet him at the door, arms up, yelling, "Daddy, Daddy." Now there was nothing but echoes. "Marcus, baby, is that you?" Monique appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She was beautiful, he had to admit. Smooth brown skin, long braids, curves in all the right places. They'd only been married for 8 months. 8 months of trying to blend their lives together. He'd thought she was perfect. A successful boutique owner, kind to Destiny, supportive of his business. Everything he'd wanted after his first wife, Destiny's mother, had passed away from cancer 5 years ago. Now, looking at her concerned face, Marcus felt a rush of gratitude. At least he had her. At least he wasn't completely alone. "Yeah, it's me," he said tiredly. "I went a visit, you know." Monique's face showed sympathy. "Oh, baby, you should have told me. I would have come with you." She crossed the room and hugged him. Marcus let himself sink into her embrace. She smelled like vanilla and cinnamon, like the tea she always made for him. "Come sit down," she said softly. "I'll make you some tea, the special blend. It'll help you relax." Marcus nodded and let her lead him to the couch. His body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The grief, the exhaustion, all of it pressing down on him. Monique disappeared into the kitchen. Marcus could hear her moving around, the kettle whistling, cups clinking. His phone buzzed, a text from Terrence. "How you holding up, bro? Need me to come by?" Marcus typed back with heavy fingers. "I'm okay. Monique's taking care of me." That's good, that's good. Hey, we got that meeting tomorrow with the investors. You want me to handle it? No pressure, man. You just focus on healing." Marcus felt another wave of gratitude. What would he do without his brother? Terrence had basically taken over the company. Williams Tech Solutions had been Marcus's baby. He'd built it from nothing, grew it into a multi-million-dollar operation. But now, he couldn't even look at the financial reports without wanting to die. "Yeah, you handle it, thanks T. Always got your back, bro, always." Monique returned with a steaming mug. The tea was dark, almost black, with a strange, earthy smell. She'd been making it special for him ever since Destiny died. Said it was some herbal blend that helped with stress and grief. "Drink up, baby," she said, sitting next to him and rubbing his back. "It'll help, I promise." Marcus took the mug. It was hot in his hands. He blew on it to cool it down. "You're so good to me," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Monique smiled. "You'll never have to find out. I'm here, forever." He raised the mug to his lips and drank. Somewhere miles away in a locked room, a little girl's eyes flew open with worry. "Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. What you're about to hear is going to shock you. I guarantee it. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next." Destiny made it back to the cabin just as the sun fully disappeared. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. She crept around the side of the house, staying low, moving through the shadows. The bathroom window was still cracked open. Thank God. She'd left it that way when she escaped earlier, hoping they wouldn't notice. She grabbed the windowsill and pulled herself up. Her arms shook with effort. She wasn't as strong as she used to be. But determination gave her strength. She squeezed through the narrow opening and dropped onto the bathroom floor as quietly as possible. She froze, listening. Voices from the other room. They were still there, still talking. Destiny crawled across the bathroom floor. The door was cracked open just an inch, just enough for her to peek through and see into the hallway. Monique and Uncle Terrence were in the living room. She could see their shadows on the wall. "I'm telling you, it's working perfectly," Monique was saying. "I gave him another dose tonight. His liver is slowly failing. The doctor thinks it's stress-related. Nobody suspects anything." "How much longer?" Uncle Terrence asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. The medicine is slow-acting, that's good, makes it look natural, but it also means we have to be patient." "I can be patient for $40 million. They both laughed. Destiny felt tears burning in her eyes again. $40 million. That's what her daddy's life was worth to them. That's why they faked her death. That's why they were slowly killing him. What about the kid? Uncle Terence asked. She's been quiet. Destiny's blood turned to ice. She's fine, Monique said dismissively. Scared and obedient. That's exactly how I want her. When this is all over and Marcus is gone, we'll drop her off at a bus station 3 states away. She'll end up in foster care. Nobody will connect it to us. You sure about that? I'm sure. She's 8 years old. Even if she talks, who's going to believe her? We have the fire report. We have the death certificate. We're the grieving family. She'll just be some confused kid making up stories. Uncle Terence laughed. Babe, you're cold. I love it. More laughter, like it was all a big joke. Destiny bit her hand to keep from crying out loud. She crawled backwards, away from the door, and curled up in the corner of the bathroom. Her whole body shook. She had to do something, had to save her daddy, but what could she do? She was only 8 years old, small, trapped in this cabin. But she was also Marcus Williams's daughter, and her daddy had always told her, Williams women are strong, we don't give up, ever. Okay, Daddy, she thought, hugging her knees to her chest. Okay, I won't give up, I promise. She just had to figure out what to do next. Marcus woke up the next morning feeling terrible. His head pounded, his stomach churned, his whole body ached. This had been happening a lot lately, ever since Destiny died. The doctor said it was stress, grief manifesting physically. His liver numbers were elevated, his blood pressure was high. His body was literally breaking down from sadness. Monique was already up, getting dressed for her boutique. She looked over at him with concern. Baby, you look awful. Maybe you should stay home today. Marcus shook his head and immediately regretted it. The room spun. No, I can't just lay here forever. I need to try. I need to try to live again. That was a lie. He didn't want to live, but he felt guilty saying it out loud. Monique came over and kissed his forehead. You're so strong, I'm proud of you. She left for work and Marcus dragged himself into the shower. The hot water felt good on his aching muscles. He stood there for a long time, letting it run over him. His phone rang just as he got out. It was Terence. Morning, bro, Terence said, his voice too cheerful. You sound rough. I feel rough. Yeah, well, grief is hard, man. Listen, I handled that investor meeting yesterday. Everything went smooth. The company's doing great. You don't need to worry about a thing. Thanks, T. Seriously, I don't know what I'd do. Stop, Terence interrupted. You're my brother. This is what family does. They talked for a few more minutes, then hung up. Marcus got dressed slowly, every movement exhausting. He looked at himself in the mirror. He'd lost weight. His skin looked dull. His eyes were hollow. You're dying, he said to his reflection. Slowly dying and you don't even care. Maybe that was the worst part. He didn't care. If he could just go to sleep and never wake up, be with Destiny again, he'd do it in a heartbeat. His phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from his doctor. Mr. Williams, we need to schedule a follow-up appointment. Your latest blood work shows concerning liver function. Please call the office. Marcus deleted the email without responding. What was the point? That night Marcus sat in his home office, staring at old photos of Destiny on his computer. There were hundreds of them. Destiny as a baby. Destiny learning to ride a bike. Destiny at her 8th birthday party blowing out candles. He clicked through them, tears streaming down his face. There was one photo that stopped him cold. It was from 3 months before she died. They were at the park. Marcus had lifted her up onto his shoulders and she was laughing, her hands in his hair, her face bright with joy. He remembered that day so clearly. The sun had been shining, birds were singing. Destiny had been wearing her favorite purple dress. Higher, Daddy, higher, she'd screamed, giggling. He'd spun around and around until they were both dizzy, until she was breathless with laughter. It was the last perfect day. Marcus closed his laptop and put his head in his hands. The grief was going to kill him. He could feel it. There was a soft knock on the door. Monique peeked in, carrying a mug. Baby, you've been in here for hours. I made you some tea. The tea again, always the tea. But what did it matter? Nothing mattered anymore. "Thanks," he said, taking the mug from her. Monique sat on the edge of his desk. "Marcus, I'm worried about you. The doctor said your liver function is declining." "I know." "Then you need to take care of yourself. You can't just give up." Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. She seemed so genuine, so caring. "I'll try," he lied. She kissed him softly, then left. Marcus looked down at the dark tea in his hands. Steam rose from it, carrying that earthy smell. He raised it to his lips. And then, for just a second, he hesitated. Something felt wrong. He couldn't explain it. Just a tiny voice in the back of his mind saying, "Don't." But that was crazy. It was just tea. Monique loved him. She was helping him through the worst time of his life. He pushed the strange feeling away and drank. The liquid burned going down, bitter and thick. Marcus didn't know it, but with every sip, he was getting closer to death. And 15 miles away, his daughter lay awake in the dark, trying desperately to think of a way to save him before it was too late. 3 days after her trip to the cemetery, Destiny woke up with a decision in her heart. She couldn't just sit in this room and wait for her daddy to die. She couldn't watch from the shadows while Monique poisoned him every single day. She had to do something big, something scary. She had to escape again, but this time she had to tell him the truth. The problem was how. Monique and Uncle Terrence were watching more closely now. They'd noticed the bathroom window had been opened. Monique had screamed at Uncle Terrence about it. "I told you to check the windows," she'd yelled. "What if the kid tries something?" "Relax," he'd said. "She's too scared to go anywhere, and where would she go anyway? We're in the middle of nowhere." They'd secured the bathroom window after that, put a lock on it that Destiny couldn't reach. But there was another window, in the small closet of the locked room. It was tiny and high up on the wall. An adult would never fit through it. But Destiny wasn't an adult. She was 8 years old and small for her age, maybe small enough. She spent 3 days watching, waiting, learning their patterns. Monique came to bring her food twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. She'd open the door, slide a plate inside, and lock it again. Never said a word to Destiny, just treated her like she wasn't even a person. Uncle Terrence barely came near the room at all. He mostly stayed in the living room, drinking beer and watching TV. At night, they both went to sleep around 11. Their bedroom was at the other end of the cabin, far enough away that they wouldn't hear small sounds from Destiny's room. That's when she'd make her move. Destiny waited until midnight. She'd been counting the hours by watching the moonlight move across the floor through her small window. When it reached the right position, she knew it was time. Her hands shook as she dragged the small wooden chair from the corner and positioned it under the closet window. She'd been preparing for this moment, thinking through every step. She climbed up carefully, her sneakers finding balance on the wobbly seat. The window was even higher than she'd thought. She had to stretch to reach it. The window was stuck. She pushed against it with both hands, using all her strength. It didn't move. Tears of frustration filled her eyes. No, she couldn't give up, not now. She pushed again, harder this time. The wood groaned. Destiny froze, her heart pounding. She waited, listening for footsteps. Silence. She pushed one more time, and this time the window gave way with a soft creak. Cold night air rushed in, making her gasp. The opening was tiny, so tiny even for her. But she had to try. Destiny stuck her head through first, then her shoulders. The frame pressed against her, but she kept pushing. For a scary moment, she thought she might get stuck. Her heart raced with panic. No, 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 please. She twisted, exhaled to make herself smaller, and pushed with her feet against the wall behind her. Suddenly she was through, tumbling out of the window and landing hard on the ground outside. The impact knocked the air out of her lungs. She lay there for a second, trying to remember how to breathe. The cold ground pressed against her face. Stars spun above her. Then she remembered, Daddy. She had to get to Daddy. Destiny scrambled to her feet and ran. She knew the direction now. She'd memorized it from her first escape. The lights in the distance. That's where she needed to go. Her sneakers pounded against dirt and pavement as she ran through the darkness. Dogs barked in the distance. Cars passed on a nearby road, their headlights sweeping through the night. She ran for what felt like hours. Her lungs burned, her legs ached, but she didn't stop, couldn't stop. Finally, when the sky was starting to turn gray with early morning light, Destiny saw something she recognized. A street sign. Martin Luther King Boulevard. She knew that street. It was near her daddy's house. She was almost there. Her legs felt like they might give out, but she forced them to keep moving. Block after block. Past closed stores and sleeping houses. Past a man on a bench who looked at her with confused eyes but didn't say anything. And then there it was, the big iron gate, the stone driveway, the house where she used to live. Home. Destiny ran to the front door and started pounding on it with her fists. Weak, exhausted hits that barely made any sound. "Daddy," she tried to call out, but her voice was just a whisper. "Daddy, please." She hit the door again and again, crying now, all her strength leaving her body. Inside the house, Marcus Williams woke up to a sound he couldn't identify. A soft thumping, like something hitting the front door. Probably just kids messing around, he thought, or maybe an animal. But the sound continued, persistent, desperate. Marcus dragged himself out of bed. His head spun. His body ached worse than ever. He'd been feeling progressively sicker all week. The doctor wanted him to go to the hospital for tests. He'd been ignoring the calls. He walked down the stairs slowly, holding the railing. Each step was an effort. The thumping continued, softer now, like whoever was making it was running out of strength. Marcus unlocked the door and pulled it open, expecting to find nothing. Instead, he found everything. Destiny stood on his doorstep. Her clothes were worn but intact. Her sneakers were dirty from running. Her hair was messy and needed washing. She looked tired and thinner than before, but she was alive. Alive. Marcus's mind went completely blank. He couldn't process what he was seeing. This couldn't be real. It wasn't possible. Destiny was dead. He'd buried her. He'd cried at her grave. He'd watched them seal her casket. "Daddy," Destiny whispered, and then her legs gave out. Marcus's body moved before his brain could catch up. He lunged forward and caught her, pulling her into his arms. She was real, solid, breathing. "Destiny," his voice came out strangled. "Baby, baby, is that you?" She wrapped her arms around his neck and held on tight. "Daddy, it's me. I'm real. I promise I'm real." Marcus fell to his knees right there on the doorstep, his daughter in his arms, and he sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from the very center of his soul. He held her so tight, checking to make sure she was real, that this wasn't a dream. "How?" he gasped between sobs. "How are you here? I don't understand. They said you died, the fire, they found your things. How?" Destiny pulled back just enough to look at his face. Her eyes were serious and full of things no 8-year-old should know. "Daddy," she said, and her voice was stronger now. "There was no fire, they lied, Monique and Uncle Terrence. They took me. They've been keeping me locked up. They wanted you to think I was dead." The words hit Marcus like bullets, each one finding its mark. What? He couldn't comprehend it, couldn't make his brain accept what she was saying. "No, no, that's not possible. Monique loves me. Terrence is my brother, they wouldn't." "They're poisoning you, Daddy." Silence, the world stopped spinning. "What did you say?" Tears spilled down Destiny's face. "The tea. The special tea Monique makes you every night. It has poison in it. I heard them talking about it. They said your liver is failing. They said in 2 or 3 weeks you'll die and then they'll get all your money." Marcus set Destiny down gently and stood up. He took 2 steps backward, his hands going to his head. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. He was having a nightmare. The grief had finally made him lose his mind. "Daddy, you have to believe me," Destiny said urgently. "They faked the fire. They kept me in a cabin in the woods. I heard them laughing at you. They said they were going to kill you and take everything. Monique has been putting poison in your tea. That's why you've been feeling so sick." Marcus looked at his daughter, really looked at her dirty clothes, at the determination in her eyes, at the truth in her face. And suddenly, things started clicking into place. How sick he'd been feeling. How Monique always insisted he drink that tea. How Terrence had been so eager to take over the company. How neither of them seemed that devastated about Destiny's death after the first week. "Oh God," Marcus whispered. "Oh God, it's true." He felt like the ground was opening up beneath him. Everything he thought he knew was a lie. His wife, his brother, his whole reality. Destiny ran to him and grabbed his hand. "Daddy, we have to be careful. If they find out I escaped, if they know I told you." The sound of a car in the driveway made them both freeze. "Get inside," Marcus said, his voice suddenly sharp and clear. "Hide now." Destiny ran into the house and dove behind the couch just as they heard footsteps on the front porch. Marcus stood in the open doorway, his mind racing. How was he going to play this? What was he going to do? The doorbell rang. He opened it. Monique stood there, dressed for work in a business suit, her smile bright and beautiful. "Baby, you're up early. I forgot my phone. I think I left it in the bedroom." She started to walk past him, but Marcus blocked her path subtly. "You okay?" she asked, her eyebrows drawing together in false concern. Marcus looked at this woman he'd married, this woman he'd trusted with his life, this woman who was slowly murdering him. "I'm fine," he said, his voice flat. "Your phone's on the kitchen counter." Monique gave him a strange look, then went to get it. Marcus watched her every move, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Every instinct screamed at him to confront her, to scream at her, to make her pay for what she'd done. But Destiny's words echoed in his mind. "We have to be careful." She was right. If he confronted Monique now, she'd run. She'd warn Terrence. They'd disappear, and he'd never be able to prove what they'd done. Monique came back with her phone, still giving him that weird look. "You sure you're okay? You look different." "Just didn't sleep well," Marcus said. She hesitated, then kissed his cheek. "Okay, I'll make you some fresh tea when I get home tonight, the strong stuff, you need it." The strong stuff, more poison. "That'd be great," Marcus forced himself to say. "Thanks, baby." Monique left, and Marcus locked the door behind her. His hands shook so badly he could barely turn the deadbolt. "She's gone," he called out. Destiny emerged from behind the couch, looking even smaller than before in the big living room. Marcus scooped her up and carried her to the bathroom. "Let's get you cleaned up first," he said, his voice breaking. "Then we'll figure out what to do." As the water washed away the dirt from his daughter's skin, Marcus stood there and cried. He cried for what she'd been through. He cried for his own stupidity. He cried for the betrayal that cut deeper than any knife. But underneath the tears, something else was growing, something dark and fierce. Anger. After the shower, Marcus made Destiny the biggest breakfast she'd ever seen. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, orange juice. She ate happily, and watching her eat normal food in their normal kitchen made his heart ache with gratitude. While she ate, Marcus paced, his mind working overtime. They needed a plan, a real plan, something that would expose Monique and Terrence completely. "Daddy," Destiny said around a mouthful of pancake, "what are we going to do?" Marcus stopped packing and looked at his daughter. She'd survived 2 months of imprisonment, 2 months of fear, and she'd escaped twice to try to save him. She was braver than anyone he'd ever known. He knelt down beside her chair. "Baby girl, I need you to be brave just a little bit longer. Can you do that?" Destiny nodded, her eyes wide. "Here's what we're going to do," Marcus said slowly, adding every word he was about to say. "We're going to let them think their plan is working." "What do you mean?" "I'm going to pretend to get sicker, much sicker, so sick that everyone thinks I'm dying. And you," he took a deep breath and this next part killed him to say, "you're going to have to go back." "No," Destiny dropped her fork, her face showing panic. "No, Daddy, I can't go back there. Please don't make me go back." "Listen to me," Marcus said, grabbing her hands. "Just for 1 more week. 1 week and then this will all be over. But we need evidence. We need them to feel safe enough to confess everything. And the only way to do that is if they think everything is going according to their plan. Tears rolled down Destiny's face. I'm scared, Daddy. I know, baby, I'm scared too, but you're the bravest person I know, and I promise, his voice broke. I promise on everything I have that I will get you out of there. 1 week from today, you escape one more time and you meet me at Central Park, at the old iron bridge where the plaque is cracked, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Can you remember that? Destiny nodded, sniffling. The iron bridge, 3 o'clock. That's my girl, and in that week I'm going to gather evidence. I'm going to make them think I'm dying, and when the time is right, we're going to expose them for the monsters they are. They spent the next few hours going over the plan. Marcus gave Destiny a small recording device, a pen that looked normal but had a microphone inside. If you can, try to get them to talk about what they did, about the fire, about the poison, anything, but be careful. Don't let them catch you. Around noon, Marcus drove Destiny back toward the cabin. Not all the way, he couldn't risk being seen, but close enough that she could walk the rest of the way. Before she got out of the car, he hugged her one more time. 1 week, baby, 7 days, and then this nightmare is over. I love you, Daddy. I love you more than the whole universe. He watched her small figure disappear into the woods, and it took everything in him not to run after her, not to grab her and never let go. But this was the only way. They needed evidence. They needed justice. Marcus drove home with tears streaming down his face and rage burning in his chest. That evening, Monique came home with a bright smile. How was your day, baby? Marcus was lying on the couch, having put on his best sick man performance. He'd messed up his hair, hadn't shaved, and wore old sweatpants. He looked terrible. Not great, he said weakly. I feel worse, so much worse. Concern flashed across Monique's face. Real concern, or at least a really good imitation of it. Oh no, let me make you some tea. Yeah, Marcus said, watching her carefully. That'd be good. He watched her in the kitchen, watched her pull out her special tin of tea, watched her add something extra from a small bottle she kept hidden in the back of the spice cabinet. She thought he couldn't see from the couch, but he saw everything now. She brought him the mug with a sweet smile. Here you go, baby, drink it all, it'll make you feel better. Marcus took the mug, held it, looked at it. This was poison. This was death in a cup handed to him by someone who claimed to love him. He raised it to his lips and pretended to drink, letting some touch his mouth. Then he lowered it and nodded. Thanks. As soon as Monique left the room to take a phone call, Marcus poured the tea into a plastic bag he'd hidden under the couch cushion. Evidence. He'd take it to a lab, get it tested, add it to the case he was building. That night he pretended to get worse, pretended his stomach hurt, pretended he couldn't keep food down. Monique played the worried wife perfectly, calling Terrence to tell him how sick Marcus was getting. I'm so worried, she said into the phone, her back to Marcus. He can barely stand up. I think we might need to take him to the hospital. Through the phone, Marcus could hear his brother's voice. No hospitals yet. Let it run its course. These things have to look natural, remember. You're right, you're right. Marcus's hands curled into fists. Nature. They were talking about killing him like it was a business transaction. Over the next few days, Marcus played his role perfectly. He stayed home from work, stopped answering his phone, let Terrence handle everything at the company. He barely ate, lost weight deliberately, made himself look like a man on his deathbed. And it worked. Monique and Terrence got comfortable, got careless, started talking more freely when they thought Marcus was asleep or too sick to hear. Marcus recorded everything, every conversation, every mention of the poison, every laugh at his expense. Meanwhile, 15 miles away, Destiny was recording too. Using the pen Marcus had given her, she captured their voices, their confessions, their plans. Once he's dead, we'll have everything, she heard Uncle Terrence say one night. The company, the properties, the investments, 40 million, baby, will be set for life. And we deserve it, Monique replied. We did the work. We planned this perfectly. Marcus was just too trusting, too stupid. Destiny's hands shook as she held the recording pen, but she kept it pointed toward their voices. Evidence. They needed evidence. The week dragged by like a year. Each day felt like a lifetime. But finally, it was the 7th day. 3 o'clock, Central Park, the Iron Bridge. Destiny waited until Monique and Terrence were distracted, arguing about something in the kitchen, and she slipped out the front door. They'd gotten careless with her, stopped checking on her as much. They thought she was broken, too scared to ever try to escape again. They were wrong. Destiny ran through the woods one last time. Her feet knew the path now, knew every rock and tree root. She ran with purpose, with hope. Marcus waited at the iron bridge, his heart pounding. What if she didn't make it? What if they caught her? What if? And then he saw her, running toward him, her face lit up with exhaustion and relief. They met in the middle of the bridge and held each other like the world was ending. "You did it," Marcus whispered. "You were so brave. I'm so proud of you." "I got recordings, Daddy. So many recordings. They confess to everything." Marcus pulled back and looked at his daughter. "Then we have them. We have them." He pulled out his phone and made calls, to his lawyer, to the police, to everyone who needed to know. "I need to report an attempted murder," he said calmly, "and a kidnapping, and I have all the evidence you need." 2 weeks later, the courtroom was packed, every seat filled. Cameras lined the back wall. Journalists sat with pens poised. This was the trial everyone wanted to see. The story had exploded across the news. Millionaire's wife and brother caught in murder plot. 8-year-old girl survives kidnapping to save father. The poisoned tea that almost killed a CEO. Everyone wanted to know how it would end. Marcus Williams sat in the front row, his daughter beside him. Destiny wore a brand new purple dress with white ribbons, her natural hair styled in 2 perfect puffs with matching bows. White dress shoes. She looked like a normal, healthy child again. Almost. Marcus looked healthy now too, strong. He'd stopped drinking the poison tea 2 weeks ago and his body had started recovering. The doctors said he'd been close, maybe 2 more weeks and the damage would have been irreversible. But he'd made it. They'd both made it. "All rise," the bailiff called out. The judge entered, Judge Patricia Anderson, a black woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She wore her black robes with authority. Marcus had heard she was tough but fair. That's what he wanted. "Be seated," Judge Anderson said, her voice carrying through the courtroom. Marcus sat, his arm protectively around Destiny. Across the aisle at the defense table sat Monique and Terrence. They looked nothing like the confident conspirators they'd been before. Monique's long, sleek braids were gone. Now she had short, unkempt hair, no makeup, wearing an orange jail jumpsuit. Terrence beside her also in orange, his usually sharp appearance now disheveled and defeated. Both of them had been denied bail. Too much of a flight risk, the judge had said. Too dangerous. "We're here today for the case of the people versus Monique Williams and Terrence Williams," Judge Anderson began. "The charges are attempted murder, kidnapping of a minor, fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder." Marcus felt Destiny's small hand grip his tighter. He squeezed back. "We're okay," the gesture said. "We're safe now." "The prosecution may begin," Judge Anderson said. The prosecutor, David Chen, stood up. He was a sharp man in his 40s, wearing a navy suit, known for winning difficult cases. "Your Honor," he began, "this is one of the most calculated, cruel cases I've encountered in my 15 years as a prosecutor. The defendants didn't just attempt to murder Marcus Williams. They terrorized a child. They faked a death. They deceived an entire community, and they almost got away with it." He walked over to a large screen and pressed a button. An audio recording began to play. The quality was clear. Monique's voice filled the courtroom. "2 months already. Nobody suspects a thing. Everyone believes the fire story." Then Terrence's voice. "And your husband, how's he doing? Still crying like a baby?" "Pathetic, but it's working perfectly. The tea I've been giving him every night, it's working. Slowly but surely." The courtroom erupted, gasps, murmurs. Someone in the back said, "Oh my God." Judge Anderson banged her gavel. "Order, I will have order." The recording continued, every damning word, every laugh, every detail of their plan laid bare for everyone to hear. Marcus watched Monique's face as she heard herself confess to attempting to murder him. She'd gone pale, her eyes squeezed shut, tears started to fall. Terrence had his head down, his shoulders shook. "The prosecution also has video evidence," David Chen continued. He played footage from a security camera at a pharmacy. It showed Terrence buying something from a shady-looking pharmacist, money exchanging hands. The pharmacist testified that Mr. Williams specifically asked for something that would cause liver failure, something that would look like natural causes. More gasps from the courtroom. Then came the forensic evidence. The tea Marcus had saved, tested and confirmed to contain poison that would have killed him within weeks. Then the DNA evidence from the cabin where Destiny had been held, her fingerprints everywhere, hair samples, evidence proving she'd been kept there for 2 months. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, devastating. When it was the defense's turn, their lawyers tried their best. They argued that the recordings were taken without consent, that the evidence was circumstantial, that their clients had been under stress and said things they didn't mean. But nobody was buying it. You could see it on the jury's faces, on the judge's face, on every face in that courtroom. The defense called Monique to the stand. Her lawyer probably thought it was their only chance. Let her explain, let her cry, let her try to win sympathy. It backfired spectacularly. "Mrs. Williams," her lawyer began carefully, "can you explain what really happened?" Monique's voice was small. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I wanted the money. Terrence said it would be easy, that nobody would get hurt. But someone did get hurt," Prosecutor Chen said when it was his turn to question her. "A child, an 8-year-old child. You kept her locked away for 2 months. You let her father think she was dead and grieve for her. You call that nobody getting hurt." Monique started crying. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "You're sorry you got caught," Chen shot back. "Not sorry for what you did." When Terrence took the stand, he tried a different approach. He tried to blame everything on Monique. "She manipulated me," he said, not meeting Marcus's eyes. "She said Marcus had too much money, that he didn't deserve it. I know it was wrong, but she convinced me." Prosecutor Chen smiled. Not a nice smile. "So you're saying your sister-in-law manipulated you into kidnapping your own niece, into poisoning your own brother, and you had no choice?" I didn't think it through." "No, Mr. Williams. You thought it through very carefully. You calculated every move. You thought about how you'd spend the $40 million after your brother was dead. You thought about everything except what was right." Terrence had no response to that. The trial lasted 4 days. 4 days of evidence, of testimonies, of tears and anger and truth. On the 5th day, the jury came back with their verdict. The courtroom was silent as the jury foreman stood up, a middle-aged black man in a button-down shirt. "On the charge of attempted murder, how do you find the defendants?" "Guilty." Monique let out a sob. Terrence's head dropped to the table. "On the charge of kidnapping a minor, how do you find the defendants?" "Guilty." "On the charge of fraud, how do you find the defendants?" "Guilty." "On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find the defendants?" "Guilty." 4 guilties, 4 nails in their coffins. Judge Anderson looked at Monique and Terrence with an expression of pure disgust. "You two will be sentenced in 2 weeks. Until then, you'll remain in custody. Bailiff, remove them." As the guards led them away, Monique looked back at Marcus one last time. Her face was wet with tears. "I'm sorry," she mouthed. "I'm sorry." Marcus just stared at her, no forgiveness in his eyes, just emptiness. Terrence didn't look back, didn't say anything, just walked away with his head down. 2 weeks later, they returned for sentencing. The courtroom was packed again. Everyone wanted to hear what would happen to the people who'd done such terrible things. Judge Anderson wasted no time. Monique Williams, Terrence Williams, please stand. They stood. Both looked like they'd aged years in 2 weeks. In my 30 years as a judge, Judge Anderson began, I have seen many terrible things, but what you two did ranks among the worst. You didn't just attempt to murder someone. You terrorized a child. You traumatized an entire family. You showed no remorse until you were caught. She looked down at her papers, then back up at them. Monique Williams, I sentence you to 40 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Terrence Williams, I sentence you to 45 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted. People cheered. Others cried. Destiny grabbed Marcus's hand and squeezed tight. Furthermore, Judge Anderson continued, banging her gavel for quiet, you will both be required to pay restitution to Marcus Williams and Destiny Williams in the amount of $10 million for emotional distress. Monique collapsed, actually fell to her knees right there. Her lawyer had to help her up. Terrence just stood there staring at nothing. 45 years. He was 33. He'd be 78 when he got out, if he lived that long. As the guards led them away for the last time, Marcus finally felt something crack open in his chest. Not joy. Not satisfaction, just release. It was over, really over. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed Marcus and Destiny, microphones thrust in their faces, questions shouted from every direction. Mr. Williams, how do you feel about the verdict? Destiny, how are you doing? Will you ever trust anyone again? Marcus raised his hand and the crowd quieted. He looked down at his daughter, then back at the cameras. I want to say something, he began. My daughter is the bravest person I've ever known. She survived something no child should ever have to survive. She saved my life, and she did it all with more courage than I thought possible. He put his hand on Destiny's shoulder. As for the verdict, it's justice, not revenge, not satisfaction, just justice. Monique and Terrence made choices. They chose greed over family. They chose money over love. They chose evil over good. And now they'll live with those choices for the rest of their lives. A reporter called out, "What message do you have for people watching?" Marcus thought for a moment. Trust but verify. Love but keep your eyes open. And never ever take family for granted. Because the people closest to you can sometimes be the ones who hurt you most. But real family, the people who truly love you, they'll fight for you. They'll protect you. They'll sacrifice for you. Another reporter, what's next for you and Destiny? Marcus looked down at his daughter and smiled, a real smile. We're going to live, really live. We're going to heal. We're going to laugh again. We're going to be a family again. That's what's next. 6 months later, Marcus and Destiny stood in front of a gravestone. The one that said Destiny Williams, beloved daughter 2016-2024. Marcus had brought something special, a sledgehammer. You ready, baby? He asked. Destiny nodded, her face serious. I'm ready, Daddy. Marcus raised the sledgehammer and brought it down on the marble stone. It cracked. He hit it again. And again. Pieces flew off. The lie carved in stone broke apart under his blows. When he was done breathing hard, he stepped back. The gravestone was in pieces on the ground, destroyed, gone. You were never dead, Marcus said, looking at his daughter. You were always alive, always fighting, always brave. Destiny smiled. I wasn't born to be buried, Daddy. I was born to live. That's right, baby. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you have the best life possible. I promise you that. They stood there for a moment, looking at the broken pieces of the lie. Then they turned and walked away, hand in hand, father and daughter, survivors. Behind them, the cemetery faded, the past faded. The trauma would take time to heal, but they had time. They had each other, and that was enough. 3 years later, Destiny sat in her daddy's office at Williams Tech Solutions doing her homework. She was 11 now, almost 12, smart and confident and brave. The company had grown even bigger. Marcus had poured himself into work as part of his healing, and it had paid off. They were one of the most successful tech firms in the state now. But Marcus never forgot what mattered most. He left work at 5 every day, never missed a school play or a parent-teacher conference, never took a single moment with his daughter for granted. "Daddy," Destiny said, looking up from her math workbook, "can I ask you something?" "Always, baby. What is it?" "Do you still think about them? About Monique and Uncle Terrence?" Marcus put down his pen. This was a conversation he'd known would come eventually. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but not as much as I used to. They're where they belong, and we're where we belong." "I think about them too sometimes," Destiny said quietly. "I used to have nightmares about that room, but I don't anymore, not as much." Marcus came around the desk and knelt beside her chair. "That's because you're healing. We both are, slowly but surely." "Do you think they're sorry, really sorry?" "I don't know, baby, maybe, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that we didn't let what they did destroy us. We're still here, still together, still strong." Destiny hugged her daddy tight. "I love you, Daddy. I love you more than all the stars in the sky." Later that night, as Marcus tucked Destiny into bed in her room, decorated with posters and books, and all the normal things an 11-year-old would have, she asked one more question. "Daddy, what's the most important thing you learned from everything that happened?" Marcus thought about it, about the betrayal, the pain, the fear, the justice, the healing. "I learned that family isn't always blood," he said finally. "Real family is the people who stand by you, who protect you, who love you even when things get hard. And I learned that trust is precious. You can't just give it away. You have to be careful with it." "But you still trust people, right? You're not scared of everyone." "No, baby, I'm not scared of everyone. I pay attention now. I watch, I listen, and I trust my gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is." Destiny nodded seriously. "I'm going to do that too, when I grow up." "You're already doing it, sweetheart. You're already so smart and careful and strong." He kissed her forehead and turned out the light. "Sweet dreams, my brave girl." "Sweet dreams, Daddy." As Marcus walked out of the room, he paused in the doorway and looked back. His daughter, his miracle, the little girl who'd survived the impossible and came back to save his life. He'd almost lost her, almost lost himself, but they'd both survived, they'd both won. And that was worth more than all the money in the world. The lesson to be learnt from this story is: life has a way of teaching us the hardest lessons through the deepest pain. Marcus Williams learned that trust is a gift that should be earned, not freely given. That the people closest to you can sometimes wear the best masks. That love without wisdom can be dangerous. But he also learned something more important, that real love survives anything. That courage can come in the smallest packages. That hope is stronger than despair. That family, real family, is worth fighting for. Destiny learned that she was stronger than she ever imagined, that her voice mattered, that even when you're small and scared, you can change everything. That bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's doing what needs to be done despite the fear. And together they learned that while evil exists in this world, so does justice, so does love, so does redemption. Some stories don't end with death. They begin again when you choose to live, when you choose to fight, when you choose hope over despair. Marcus and Destiny chose life, and life chose them back. The broken gravestone in that cemetery serves as a reminder. Lies can be carved in stone, but truth is stronger. Darkness can seem overwhelming, but light always finds a way through. And love, real, protective, sacrificial love, can overcome anything. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think, if it reminded you that you're stronger than you know, I want you to do 3 things. First, hit that subscribe button, because I'm going to keep bringing you stories that matter, stories that inspire, stories that remind you that you're not alone. Second, drop a comment telling me what lesson you learned from Marcus and Destiny's story. What spoke to you? What will you remember? Third, share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's going through something hard, someone who needs to be reminded that they can survive anything. Remember, trust wisely, love deeply, protect fiercely, And never underestimate the power of a brave heart, no matter how small. This is your narrator signing off. Remember, you're braver than you think, stronger than you know, and loved more than you realize. Until next time, keep fighting, keep hopping, keep living. Peace and blessings.